Hey, welcome back to Everyday Economics. This is the podcast that helps you understand the economic world going on all around us. Everyday Economics is brought to you by the Center Square Newswire service. I'm Chris Krug, and I'm publisher of the Center Square. And this guy over here is Orphe Divounguy. He's my partner on the show, and he's a PhD economist, so he's a big deal. Today's Monday, December 15th, and in this episode, we're talking about jobs. Hey, we talk about jobs and employment and statistics related to our understanding of jobs and employment like all the time, right? You know, we're kind of coming up to the end of the year. We had the weird government shutdown, you know, that kind of like ate up data from October and a big chunk of November. You know, we're getting early indications from external sources, which are the external sources that I think that you leaned into while the government wasn't reporting data.
Yeah, for sure.
ADP and Revelio Labs. They're suggesting that unemployment in November, it grew. Employment declined. Unemployment grew. We did see a number earlier this month, or a post-government shutdown, suggesting that unemployment was about 0.4% above what you and I would consider to be the happy zone of 4%. It came in at I think it came in exactly at 4.4%. Word on the street is that hiring is pretty slow right now. Involuntary departures and other such reductions in force may be up slightly, though I can't think of anything in particular that's kind of jumped out from like the Warren reports where, you know, there's mass layoffs. I mean, there have been some.
They're trickling up, right? This is like inching up slowly, you know?
Yeah, and I'm not diminishing the headlines. I mean, you know, a meatpacking plant that decides that it can't do it in one state and is going to maybe try to grow, out of an existing business unit one state over. I mean, these things happen, and they do have impacts on the local communities where this occurs. I'm not absolutely not diminishing that or things that are like
total
that.
number of layoffs is up 3.7% from a year ago.
From a year ago. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so, are we at a point where, you know, there's any one thing or any couple of things that are really, that are driving this? I mean, are you like, you know, if you had to put your finger on kind of, you know, what's happening now? I mean, inflation continues to go up. You know, PPI, we haven't talked about the producer price index recently. The CPI, consumer price index, comes out this week. We'll have better data. We had heard earlier this month that Black Friday was a pretty massive success relative to, you know, the way that the retail industry looks at things. I mean, that spending was up. There were some questions about, you know, financing and how much of this went on credit cards that won't be paid or will be further burden the people that hold credit debt. But I mean, as far as it goes with work, I mean, what are you pointing to? What are your drivers right now?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I look at the kind of the totality of the reports, right? So I look at the private sector data, of course, and what do I see? I see ADP is showing the U.S. economy shed jobs in November.
Yeah.
Revelio Labs is showing the economy lost jobs in November.
Yeah.
Right. Private employers, ADP, Revelio Labs tells us the entire economy, right?
Mm-hmm. Gusto said that they're not seeing a lot of new people showing up in their software, so that means that businesses aren't, you know, on a hiring spree at the same time.
No.
So it's not like we're
right.
trading employee one for employee two.
Hiring is very low, and the labor markets, you know, job postings have been dropping, right? So job postings are dropping, hiring is super low, and so that's kind of what's going on. I think workers have lost a ton of bargaining power in the past couple of years.
Yeah.
Whether or not that deterioration is going to continue is another story, right? When you look at Gusto has data on small businesses, right? And Gusto basically shows that net hiring was negative, but less negative than a month ago, than in October, right? So that's a small improvement, right?
Sure.
Getting closer back to zero. So you look at initial claims, continuing claims, they're dropping. So that's a positive. Maybe there's less deterioration. Maybe the labor market is no longer deteriorating, right? So that's a positive, right? So those are the things I look at. I kind of look at the whole picture. The whole picture tells me the labor market is kind of fragile, but potentially not getting worse.
All right, well, that's fair enough. I mean, government hiring certainly, wasn't ramping up in the period of time in which the government was shut down. Although I did see a headline moving today that somehow, some way during the government shutdown, a $250,000 junket to Singapore was approved, and people actually traveled during that period of time. I'd like to read more about that and to just be a little bit more informed. So, it's not like everything was shut down. Some things were still going on. Certainly what's going on in the country with regard to immigration. We've had a significant slowdown there, and we've had a number of people who have been removed, presumably from the workforce. When do we start to see these numbers manifest themselves in public data? I mean, is that going to show up? I mean, if either one of these is a driver, you can't grow the size of government. And, over the last couple of years in particular, you and I've talked, not to say ad nauseum, but we talked a lot about the percentage of jobs in particular during the Biden administration that were government-related jobs and healthcare jobs that had connections to government funding. All right. Well, we're not seeing those now. They're not showing up. And the parts of the economy that are growing. I mean, if Gusto says small business isn't growing, I don't know that tech is growing right now. That doesn't seem like that's growing. The auto industry in the United States doesn't seem like it's growing. Major manufacturing in the United States, I'm not seeing headlines about significant growth there. I mean, artificial intelligence takes up a lot of space in the conversation about the future of work, and that's probably not a net positive to employment, right? So, this is a wacky stew that's been kind of boiled by a lack of data and a lack of insight. And I certainly don't hold you accountable for, reading tea leaves here, but what's going on, man?
Look, you've touched on a lot just now. And let me put it this way. Private sector hiring is super slow, potentially has stalled. Federal government employment is down 3% year over year.
Okay.
Down, right? Mm-hmm. The headlines about layoffs that we hear about, they matter. They matter. However, in the grand scheme of things, there's about 159 million people that are employed in the United States. 160 million people employed in the United States.
Yep.
And so, when you see, 10,000 job cuts, and you ask, well, why is that not showing up in the unemployment rate? Why are we not seeing a big uptick in the unemployment rate or a big decrease in employment? It's because we are in a big economy. And so, when Amazon cuts 10,000 jobs, I care and I feel for the people there. At the same time, it's not going to show up necessarily in those aggregate.
It's kind of crazy that is statistically irrelevant.
It's not irrelevant.
to the whole, but to the whole. I mean, it's a contributing factor, but I mean,
it is.
You know,
it
yeah,
is.
that,
but you know, when you focus on 160 million, you realize that actually 10,000 jobs is very small.
Yeah, it's a rounding error. So I mean, like, you know, it's a little early to be forecasting. I don't want to put you in a bad spot, you know, if you're thinking ahead. I mean,
I was saving that for next week's.
Well, then let's do that. Let's save that for next week because I want to talk.
Okay. What do you want me to say about my forecast?
Why don't you just give us a little tease on what you're thinking about in terms of jobs for next year?
Yeah, I think that potentially you're going to see very weak employment growth.
Mm-hmm.
Going into in 2026.
Okay.
But that may not be enough to get the Fed to cut further.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're going to have to wait for midway through 2026.
Okay. Well, I'm going to come back next week and I'm going to ask you why you think this, and that'll be a fun episode. So let's call it good there. And thanks as always, Dr. O. Make sure that you read Orphe's Everyday Economics column every Monday at thecentersquare.com or wherever you find the Center Square and 1,360 plus outlets across the United States. And check us out every weekend on the Center Square Radio Hour.